Sixth man to superstar. Is Jordan Poole about to become the next James Harden? A few weeks before the start of the NBA season, the Timberwolves legend Kevin Garnett said that Jordan Poole is about to become the new James Harden.
Jordan Poole is the new James Harden. Now, remember when James Harden left OKC and he got to goddamn Houston and got right at it?
Absolutely.
Man, this the Jordan Poole show.
And just looking at the facts, it might make sense. Over a decade ago, James Harden emerged as a star sixth man on a team with championship hopes, just like Poole did. Harden got traded to the Houston Rockets, a team that had been painfully mediocre for a few years in a row, just like Poole on the Wizards. James quickly became a superstar, dropping 82 points in his first 2 games with the Rockets. Poole, not so much. In his first game with the Washington Wizards, Poole shot 39%, including 0 for 6 from deep, in a 23-point loss to the Pacers. Since then, the team has won 2 games and he hasn't even cracked 30 points once. Poole and Kyle Kuzma have made a fun duo together in Washington, dropping highlights like this.
And he's going to lob it off the glass for Kuzma.
But that happened when they were down 20 points late in the game, which pretty much sums up the Wizards season so far. Can Jordan Poole lead his own team? The numbers say maybe. Over the last 3 years, Poole has always stepped up big when Steph Curry was unavailable. Poole always felt like he needed to be the guy when Steph wasn't cooking. In 2021, Poole averaged 12 points per game, but he scored 22 in 8 games without Steph. The next year, he scored 18.5 per game, but 25.6 without Steph. And last year, his scoring jumped from 20.4 to 26.1 points per game when he was the number 1 guy. So he's capable of leading a team as the main guy, right? But when you look at the advanced stats, it makes sense why the Wizards are struggling early this year. In over 1,500 minutes last season, when Poole was on the court while Steph was off, the Warriors had a minus 1.0 net rating. For a team that was just coming off a championship, that's not a good number. Now, it's still early on, but is it too soon to say Jordan Poole is not the next James Harden? First off, you need to look at the differences in their game. Sure, on the surface, Poole and Harden had similar starts to their careers. Sixth man on good teams, overshadowed by superstars, yada yada. But other than that, they were pretty different. In Harden's 2012 Sixth Man of the Year campaign, he was insanely efficient. He shot 49% from the floor, 39% from deep, both of which would end up being career highs to this day. His 17 points and 4 assists per game don't really do justice to how important he was for facilitating the Thunder's offense. Other than his shoddy play in the finals, he initiated most of the plays on a team that featured KD and Westbrook. Anyone who knew ball knew that he was being held back, that he could have been featured on his own team. But winning was more important, so he sacrificed shots and assists to feed KD and Russ. Man, how times have changed. Poole, on the other hand, has never been described as efficient. Last season, he shot 43% from the floor and 34% from deep. Not exactly a sharpshooter. The year before, he'd unexpectedly burst onto the scene, becoming an important part of a championship team. At age 23, he took a huge step back. Do you remember why? Even in 2022, he wasn't all that efficient. But when the emotional leader of your team decks you in the face, it tends to hurt your morale.
Yeah, I mean, we're in Washington now.
Outside of that, Poole and Harden's background couldn't really be farther apart. Harden was the final of 4 incredible draft picks by Sam Presti and the Thunder. Probably the best 3-year drafting stretch a team has ever had. Durant number 2 in 2007, Westbrook as a huge reach at number 4 in 2008, and then the unknown Ibaka at number 24. In 2009, the Thunder drafted Harden at number 3, completing the scariest young lineup in the league. When you have that many good players at one time, you can't keep them all. Harden wanted to get paid, which we probably should have seen as a precursor for things to come. Presti didn't realize how much the cap would spike a few short years later, and he chose Westbrook over Harden. Probably a mistake historically. Poole, on the other hand, was a late first rounder from Michigan, and even 28 was probably too early. He was drafted to a dynasty right before their 2-year, injury-riddled postseason hiatus. After a few years of G League play, he started peaking right as the Warriors' core guys got healthy. The stars aligned and they won a title. When Harden got to Houston, he was young, hungry, desperate to prove himself. When Poole got to Washington, he felt like he'd already done so. Poole was the 5th best guy on a title team, but he felt like he was, for some reason, on the same level as the icons he had played with. Poole's former teammate, Andre Iguodala, talked about that with JJ Redick.
Jordan's like, why can't I go out there and be free like them? You know, he doesn't have 4 rings, he has 1, and he won us a game in the finals. He did do that, game 5. And so he coming back like, no, I've shown y'all that, give me some freedom. And I'm second on the team in scoring.
Average 20.4.
He was second on the team in scoring. So why should I be the guy? Like, all those emotions, he's a real human being. So he's like, nah, I'm doing what I do. I've been sacrificing.
Unlike Harden, Poole already got paid a massive extension. The Warriors realized that was a huge mistake, so they traded him to Washington for Chris Paul, the efficient, selfless leader. So, the opposite of Jordan Poole. Poole is coming off a horrible postseason, including a second round where he averaged 8 points on 35, 23, 75 splits. And don't forget about that shot. That being said, Harden's last series before his Rockets run wasn't great either. He shot 38% for 12 points per game in their finals loss to LeBron, Wade, and the Miami Heat. But Harden's style of play is far more conducive to lead a team. Now, one huge knock on Harden is his high usage rates. He needs to be touching the ball to help his team in any way. But why is that? Because it works. Harden is good at everything offensively. He's a good three-point shooter, a good ball handler, a good passer, and a good finisher. He's not really the best at a single thing, other than probably drawing fouls, but he does every single thing good enough to be a historically great offensive player. Most importantly, that means getting other guys their shots too. Guard him small, he'll burn you from deep. Guard him big, he'll get to the hole. Overplay him, he'll draw a foul. But if you try to double him, he's going to find an open man. Poole hasn't shown the ability or the willingness to be a great passer. Now, he's a fine passer for a shooting guard, able to drive to the basket, dish out to a shooter on the wing. But if he's gonna become the next James Harden, he'll have to become a capable point guard, not a trigger-happy volume scorer. Denny Avdija probably feels the same way. That's how we all feel, Denny. Just hit the open man. Now, that play also perfectly encapsulates the Jordan Poole experience, because Jordan made that shot. He might be closer to being the next Jamal Crawford, taking bad shots that go in enough, you think he's a superstar. Or maybe a better comp is J.R. Smith. Early in his Denver career, J.R. had as much talent as anyone, and he knew it. But he jacked up bad shots, had no basketball IQ, and was the team's resident head case. For JR, it all worked out eventually. He became an important piece on a championship team when he realized he wasn't quite as good as LeBron, though the basketball IQ never really came along. Poole still has not taken that step, still thinking of himself as the guy, as a superstar. Now, if your star is Jordan Poole, you have to put up with bad shots. A lot. So why might the Poole experiment work in DC? Because Poole is undeniably one of the most talented players in the league. You see moves like this and wonder how he's not the MVP. To be able to have that type of control, to see the game that way. It's like the reincarnation of Jason Williams. Though, is that a good thing? He's a good enough passer to get away with leading an offense, and you figure if he gets enough touches, he can become that type of player, a Harden-esque hybrid. Maybe most importantly, he is so clutch. Last year looked bad in the playoffs, but over the course of his career, it seems like a fluke. He's never afraid to take the biggest shot of the game. Sure, when you're playing with Steph, you'd rather not have Jordan Poole taking your game winners. But which would you prefer? A guy who's scared of the moment, or a guy who's too confident in his own abilities? So does Poole have a chance to become Harden? They don't have similar styles of play, they're in pretty different situations, and they come from different backgrounds. But if Poole can become a superstar with the Wizards, his story might end up being better than Harden's. Everyone knew Harden would be good with his own team, just no one really knew how good. For a few months, Poole was seen as the one to replace Steph, the guy who would bridge the Warriors to their next era. He failed. Now, his stock is probably lower than ever. Poole said to The Ringer's Logan Murdoch, "Playing the game I love at the highest level, my family is taken care of. My basketball legacy is taken care of with the ring." Does that sound like a guy who's ready to take the next step? Or a player who's content with what he's done? Only time will tell. But Poole has the talent to be a superstar. He's missing a few key ingredients like selflessness, humility, shot-taking awareness. If he can get those things down, it's not hard to see him becoming the next superstar for a franchise that's been dying for something positive over the last 4 decades. However, if the start to the season is any indication, that's not happening. Do you think Poole's story will be better than Harden's? Can he be a superstar? Let us know in the comments, then watch why Jordan Poole got traded in the first place, and it wasn't Draymond Green. Listen to The Wrong Opinion, Useless NBA Trivia, and Garbage Rankings for more NBA content.